Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to get our hands dirty, exploring the world of Hephaestus,
Okay.
the Greek god of fire and craftsmanship.
Yeah.
We've got some great sources lined up for this one. A bunch of articles on Greek mythology
Okay.
and some really insightful entries from GreekMythology.com. So we're going to,
Yeah, that's a great site.
yeah, and we're going to use all this, to really forge a new understanding of this Olympian,
Absolutely.
who I think is often overlooked.
Yes, he's often kind of relegated to the lame god.
Yeah.
We're going to
Right.
get beyond that.
Yes, exactly. We're going to see that he's so much more than that.
There's so much more to him.
Yeah, he's an incredibly skilled craftsman. He's responsible for some of the most iconic objects in Greek mythology.
Absolutely.
But, before we get into all those amazing creations, let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
And even just starting with his birth story, it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
there's a bit of a mystery.
There he is. There's a couple of different versions floating around.
Yeah.
That-
We've got two main accounts, one from Hesiod's Theogony, which is basically like a genealogy of the Greek gods.
Right.
And then the other is from Homer, of course, the legendary poet of the Iliad and the Odyssey.
Mhm.
So let's break it down. What does Hesiod tell us about where Hephaestus comes from?
Well, in Hesiod's version, Hera, the queen of the gods,
Right.
wife of Zeus, she gives birth to Hephaestus all by herself
Whoa, hold on.
out of spite towards Zeus.
So a goddess giving birth without a male god involved.
Yes.
That's a pretty bold statement.
It is. It's a big statement.
Even for Greek mythology.
Even for Greek mythology.
What's the significance there?
It really is. I mean, it speaks to Hera's incredible power and her independence.
Right.
Remember in ancient Greece, patriarchal structures were so dominant.
Yeah.
And here we have Hera defying those norms,
Yeah.
asserting her own agency and her ability to create life.
Yeah.
And some scholars even interpret this as a powerful act of rebellion against Zeus
Oh, wow.
and his infidelity and his philandering.
So she's basically saying, I don't need Zeus to create something powerful and amazing.
Exactly.
I can do it myself.
I mean, that's a pretty feminist take
It is.
for ancient Greece.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It challenges the traditional power dynamics of Olympus
Yeah?
and suggests that there's so much more to Hera than we often give her credit for.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
So that's Hesiod's take. What about Homer?
Okay, so Homer,
How does his version differ?
well, in the epics, Iliad, the Odyssey, Hephaestus is the son of both Zeus and Hera.
Oh, okay.
So he fits into the more traditional family structure.
Interesting. So two very different birth stories, potentially different agendas behind them.
Yes.
Like they're highlighting different aspects of his character.
Exactly, right from the get-go.
Even from the moment he's born.
Yes, and it reminds us that these myths aren't static.
Right.
They evolve over time, reflecting the culture, the different perspectives of the storytellers.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So regardless of which birth story you prefer.
Both versions agree on one thing.
Yes.
Hephaestus is cast out of Olympus.
Yes.
And the reason, his deformity.
Right. This is a key point, I think,
Okay.
because it speaks to this ancient Greek ideal
Right?
of physical perfection,
Yeah.
especially when it came to their gods.
Yes.
They were supposed to be these flawless, idealized beings.
Mm.
And Hephaestus just didn't fit that mold.
No.
He's often depicted as having a lame foot, sometimes even deformed.
So his disability makes him an outcast, even amongst the gods.
Even among the gods.
Isn't that a bit ironic, considering he's the one who creates so many beautiful and powerful things for them?
It is ironic. It speaks to the complexities of his character.
Yeah.
I think he's both rejected and essential.
Right.
He reminds us that appearances can be deceiving,
Okay.
that true strength and beauty are often found beneath the surface.
I see what you mean. It's
Yeah.
like his disability becomes a defining characteristic, but not in the way you'd expect.
Right.
It doesn't weaken him.
No, it doesn't.
It like fuels his creativity and his resourcefulness.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't let his physical limitations define him.
Yeah.
You could even argue that they become a source of his strength.
So facing this rejection from his own family, where does Hephaestus find refuge?
Well, he ends up on the island of Lemnos,
Okay.
a volcanic island where he's raised by nymphs.
Lemnos, a volcanic island.
Yes.
Okay, I'm seeing a connection here.
I bet you are.
Hephaestus, god of fire. The symbolism seems pretty obvious.
Absolutely. The volcano becomes this powerful symbol of Hephaestus's forge,
Right.
the place where he harnesses the raw power of fire to create.
Yeah.
So Lemnos is both a place of exile
Right.
and empowerment.
Yeah.
It's where he hones his skills and becomes the master craftsman we know him to be.
And this is where things get really interesting because Let's be honest, Hephaestus's workshop is legendary.
Legendary.
I mean, we're talking about the Forge, where some of the most iconic objects in Greek mythology
absolutely.
were created, weapons, palaces, even robots.
Automoto, to be precise.
Automata robots, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
They sound amazing.
They are.
But before we get into those, let's talk about the weapons.
Okay.
He made some pretty legendary gear for the gods, right?
He did some incredible weapons that really shaped the course of the myths.
Yeah.
Influenced the outcomes of wars.
Yeah, okay.
For Zeus, he forged the Thunderbolts.
The Thunderbolts.
The ultimate symbol of divine power.
The weapons that strike fear into the hearts of mortals and gods alike.
Absolutely.
That must have taken some serious skill.
Imagine the heat of that forge, the precision,
Yeah.
to shape lightning itself into a weapon.
Wow.
It speaks to his mastery over fire and metal.
Okay, and then there's the Aegis shield for Zeus and Athena.
Oh, yes.
That thing was terrifying.
That thing was terrifying.
Yeah.
It was said to be so powerful that it could terrify enemies with just a glance.
Oh, wow.
Some accounts describe it as having the head of Medusa,
Right.
the Gorgon emblazoned on it with her gaze still capable of turning onlookers to stone.
Talk about psychological warfare.
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't just about divine weapons. He also created armor for heroes, right?
He did.
Like the armor of Achilles, the greatest warrior of the Trojan War.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Achilles' armor was said to be practically indestructible,
Oh, wow.
forged by Hephaestus himself.
So even though he's this outcast figure, he's still playing a crucial role in the power dynamics
Yes.
of Olympus.
Of Olympus. He's equipping the gods and heroes,
Right.
shaping the very course of events.
Yeah.
So he might be physically separated from Olympus,
Yeah.
but his influence is undeniable.
Right.
His creations have a direct impact on the lives of both mortals and immortals.
And it's not just about weapons and armor.
No.
He also created incredible structures.
Yes.
Like the palaces of the gods themselves.
the palaces of the gods. Imagine the grandeur of Olympus.
Yeah.
The home of the gods crafted by Hephaestus.
Yeah, these must have been beyond anything humans could even imagine.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like a combination of architecture, engineering, and magic all rolled into one.
Exactly. These weren't just buildings.
Right.
They were works of art,
Yeah.
reflections of the power and majesty of the gods.
And all created by this so-called lame god.
That's right.
The one who was rejected for his imperfections.
Yes.
Okay, I have to ask about these automata.
All right.
The idea of a god creating robots
Yeah.
in ancient Greece,
Right.
it just blows my mind.
It's pretty incredible.
What were these things like?
Well, these were these incredible creations that showcased his ingenuity,
Right.
his mastery over fire and mechanics.
Yeah.
One of the most famous examples are his golden handmaidens.
Wait, golden handmaidens, like actual robots made of gold?
Yes.
Wow.
And they weren't just mindless machines.
Oh.
They were said to have intelligence, the ability to speak.
Wow.
They assisted him in his workshop and even offered him companionship in his solitary forge.
Okay. That's both fascinating and a little creepy.
It is a little bit of both.
It's like something out of a science fiction novel, but thousands of years
I know,
before robots were even a concept.
right? It speaks to the incredible imagination
Yeah.
of the ancient Greeks.
Yeah.
Their ability to envision possibilities beyond the limitations of their own technology.
Okay, so Hephaestus wasn't just creating these helpful assistants.
Right.
He also built some pretty intimidating guardians, right?
He did. Like Talos, the bronze giant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's creating these things that are both beautiful and functional, but also potentially dangerous.
Yes.
It's like he's not afraid to explore that duality
Right.
of his power, you know?
His power, the creative and the destructive.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. It's a very perceptive observation.
Yeah.
He's not just a benevolent craftsman.
Right.
He's a god who understands the power of fire,
Yeah.
both to create and to destroy.
It's like fire itself, right?
Yes.
It can provide warmth and sustenance,
Yes.
but it can also burn and consume.
Absolutely.
And Hephaestus seems to embody both of those aspects.
He does. He's this complex figure full of contradictions,
Yeah.
which is what makes him so fascinating.
Right.
He's not easily categorized or pigeonholed.
Right.
He's both powerful and vulnerable, creative and destructive,
Yeah.
an outcast and a revered god.
And speaking of contradictions, we can't forget about his marriage to Aphrodite,
Oh, yes.
the goddess of beauty married to, well, let's just say a less conventionally attractive god.
Right.
It seems like an odd pairing, doesn't it?
It does on the surface. But, when you think about it, it's really fascinating
Okay.
because you have fire which represents power and creation,
Right.
and beauty, which represents desire and attraction.
Yeah.
It's almost like these are the forces that drive human life.
I see what you mean. It's like they represent two sides of the same coin.
Exactly.
You know? Two essential aspects of the human experience.
Yes.
Passion and creation.
Yeah.
Desire and craftsmanship.
They're intertwined.
Yeah, even if the relationship itself is a little tumultuous.
Which it is.
Well, it's about to get a whole lot more interesting because we have that infamous love triangle involving Aphrodite Ares,
Yeah.
the god of war, and a cleverly crafted golden net.
Yes, a golden net.
But we'll save that juicy story for a little bit later in the deep dive.
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
We'll leave you in suspense.
Exactly. So we've talked about how Hephaestus is this amazing craftsman, right? Creating these incredible objects that really shape the world of the gods and mortals.
Yeah, definitely.
But there's another side to him that I find really interesting.
Okay.
And that's the idea of him as kind of a trickster figure.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the way he catches Aphrodite and Eris.
Yeah.
It's pretty ingenious.
It's pretty clever,
Yeah.
right? He doesn't just, resort to brute force or anger.
Right.
He uses his craftiness and his skill
Yeah.
to come up with this elaborate trap.
Exactly. He creates this net. So fine, it's practically invisible.
Yeah.
And hangs it above their bed.
Yeah, and then when they're, shall we say, caught in the act,
Right.
he springs the trap.
It's a scene that's like, it has humor, it has drama,
It
a touch of poetic justice.
Yeah, and it really highlights another aspect of his character, his intelligence.
Right. He's not just a skilled artisan.
Yeah.
He's a cunning strategist.
Yeah, I love that detail about the net being, like, practically invisible.
Yeah.
It's like he's using his craft not just for practical purposes, but also for subterfuge
Yes.
and cunning.
Yes.
He's a god who thinks several steps ahead,
He's always thinking ahead.
and the reactions of the other gods are so interesting, too.
Oh, they are?
Some are amused by the whole situation.
Amused.
Others, like Poseidon, seem to sympathize with the trapped lovers.
Yeah.
It's like a cosmic soap opera
It is like a cosmic soap opera.
playing out on Mount Olympus.
Exactly.
But what I find really interesting is that even though Hephaestus is clearly hurt and betrayed,
Right.
he doesn't lash out
No, it could have...
in like a destructive way.
No.
He exposes their infidelity,
Yes.
but he doesn't try to like directly harm them.
Right. There's a certain restraint there.
Yeah,
I mean, he could have unleashed his fury on Ares,
right.
but he chooses to humiliate them.
To expose their betrayal to the other gods.
It's almost like he's saying, I'm not going to stoop to your level.
No.
I'm going to let your actions be your downfall.
Right. And it raises the question, what is he hoping to achieve
Hi.
with this?
Yeah.
Is it revenge?
Yeah.
Or is it something more complex, like a desire to reclaim his dignity?
Yeah.
To show the hypocrisy
Right.
of the beautiful and the powerful.
Yeah, maybe it's a bit of both.
Maybe it's a bit of both.
He's hurt, he's angry,
Yeah.
but he also wants to make a point.
Yes, he wants to show that he's not someone to be underestimated
Right.
or taken advantage of.
Okay, so we've talked about his creations, his marriage.
Yes.
This clever trickery.
Yes.
What about his role in, like, the bigger picture
Oh.
of Greek mythology? What other myths or stories is he involved in?
Well, one of the most interesting and maybe even a little controversial is the story of Pandora's box.
Pandora's box, the source of all evil in the world.
That's the one.
What does that have to do with Hephaestus?
Well, in some versions of the myth,
Okay.
it's Hephaestus who creates Pandora herself
Oh, wow.
at the behest of Zeus as a sort of punishment for humanity.
Wait, so he creates the first woman,
Yes.
but she's essentially a trap.
Yeah. It's a bit of a dark twist.
It's a bit dark.
It adds another layer to this complexity of his character.
Right.
He's not just creating beautiful and useful things.
Right.
He's also involved in the creation of something that brings suffering and chaos.
I guess that's part of what makes Greek mythology so fascinating.
It is.
It's not always black and white.
No.
There's a lot of gray area.
There is.
The gods aren't these perfect, benevolent beings.
No, they're not.
They're flawed and complex, just like humans.
Exactly. And Hephaestus, I think, really embodies that duality.
Yeah.
He's capable of creating incredible beauty,
Yeah.
but also terrible destruction.
It's like he represents the full spectrum of human potential,
He does.
both the good and the bad.
The good and the bad.
And that brings us back to the idea of Hephaestus as a symbol.
Yep.
He's not just a mythological figure.
Right.
He represents something larger.
Yes. Something that really speaks to the human experience.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He's a symbol of resilience,
Okay.
of overcoming adversity, of finding strength in unexpected places.
Right.
He reminds us that physical limitations don't have to define you.
Yeah.
And that true beauty often lies not in appearances,
Right.
but in creativity, in skill, in the power to shape the world around you.
And he's also a symbol of the power of fire itself.
He is.
The way it can be both creative and destructive.
Yes.
Both life-giving and life-taking.
Right. And it's interesting to note that in addition to being the god of fire and metalworking,
Okay.
he's also associated with volcanoes.
Volcanoes, of course. It all ties together.
It does.
The forge, the fire, the raw power of nature.
Yes.
It's like he embodies that primal energy.
Yes.
That force that can both create and destroy.
And volcanoes themselves are really a perfect metaphor
Oh, yeah.
for that duality. You know, they can be incredibly destructive, erupting with molten lava, ash, devastating entire landscapes.
Right.
But they also play a crucial role in the formation of new land,
Okay.
in the creation of fertile soil.
It's like a cycle of destruction and creation.
It is.
This constant interplay between chaos and order.
Yeah.
And Hephaestus is right at the center of it.
He is at the center of it.
Yeah.
He's the one who harnesses that raw power,
Yeah.
shapes, molds it to his will.
It's amazing how much one mythological figure can represent.
It is.
Hephaestus embodies so many different concepts and ideas.
He does. And that's why his story continues to resonate with people today.
Yeah.
You know, he speaks to our own struggles,
Yeah.
our own desires to create,
Right.
our own fascination with the power of nature.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
From his incredible creations to his complex relationships
Yeah.
and his symbolic significance.
Right.
But there's one more aspect of his story that I want to touch on.
Okay.
And that's his lasting legacy. How was he viewed by the ancient Greeks beyond the myths?
Well, you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah.
He was worshipped alongside Athena
Right?
in the festival of Chalkea,
Right.
a celebration of craftsmanship and innovation.
And there's that magnificent temple of Hephaestus in Athens.
Yes.
Which still stands today.
Still stands today.
Yeah, these are like tangible reminders that he was more than just a mythological figure.
Right. He was revered as a god of creation, innovation, resilience.
And it's not just in Greece.
No.
His influence can be seen throughout history.
Throughout history, in art literature, even in the names we give to things.
Yeah.
For example, the word volcano
Right.
actually comes from the Roman name for Hephaestus, Vulcan.
Right.
And even today, we use the word vulcanize
Yeah.
to describe the process of strengthening rubber using heat and sulfur,
Right.
a direct reference to Hephaestus's mastery over fire and metal.
Yeah, it's amazing to think that this ancient god,
Yes.
this figure who is both revered and rejected, continues to have such a lasting impact on our language and our culture.
It speaks to the enduring power of myth
Yeah.
and how these stories continue to shape our understanding of the world.
You know, as we've been talking about Hephaestus,
Yeah.
I've been thinking about how his story might resonate with people today,
Oh, yeah.
especially those who might feel like outsiders
Right.
or who face physical challenges.
Yeah. I mean, Hephaestus, despite being cast out, ridiculed for his appearance,
Right.
never gives up.
Yeah.
You know, he embraces his skills, his
Yeah.
creativity,
Yeah.
and ultimately finds a place for himself among the gods.
It's like he turns his perceived weakness into
Yeah.
his greatest strength.
Exactly.
And he shows us that true beauty and power don't come from physical perfection,
No, they don't.
but from the strength of the human spirit.
Yes.
The ability to create,
Yes.
to innovate, to leave your mark on the world.
Exactly. And that's a message I think that can inspire people from all walks of life. You know, we all face challenges. We all have our own insecurities, our own limitations.
Right.
But Hephaestus reminds us
Yeah.
that it's not about being perfect.
Yeah.
It's about embracing who we are,
Right.
finding our unique talents,
Yeah.
and using them to make our mark on the world.
It's funny, as we've been, like digging into this story of Hephaestus,
Yeah.
I keep thinking about, like the contrast between his own appearance
Right.
and the beauty of the things that he creates.
Right. It's this incredible irony that runs throughout his myth.
Yeah. It makes me think about how, we often equate physical perfection
Yeah.
with beauty, especially in today's world with all the emphasis on, appearances.
Absolutely.
But Hephaestus kind of challenges that notion.
He does. He reminds us that true beauty can be found in the imperfect,
Right.
in the unconventional, in the things that are made with skill and passion,
Yeah.
regardless of the outward appearance of the creator.
And it's not just about physical objects.
Yeah.
His story also speaks to the beauty of resilience,
Yeah.
of finding strength and purpose,
Yeah.
despite, facing adversity.
Exactly. He's a testament to the power of the human spirit,
Right.
to overcome challenges and create something meaningful even in the face of rejection and ridicule.
It makes me wonder how Hephaestus might have felt about his own appearance.
Hmm.
Do you think he saw himself as flawed, or did he kind of embrace his difference?
That's a great question, and one we can only really speculate on.
Right.
But I think it's important to remember that the myths often reflect the values and beliefs
Right.
of the culture that they come from.
So in ancient Greece, where physical perfection was so highly prized,
Yes.
it's likely that his deformity would have been seen as a negative trait.
Probably true. But at the same time, the myths also offer a space
Yeah.
for challenging those norms,
Okay.
for exploring the complexities of human experience,
Mm.
even for the gods.
So even though he might have been viewed as flawed by others, he still possessed this incredible talent, this divine gift for creation.
Absolutely, and that's what makes his story so compelling.
Yeah.
He transcends his physical limitations through his artistry,
Yeah.
his ingenuity, his unwavering determination.
And it makes you wonder, what if he hadn't been cast out?
Right.
What if he had been accepted and celebrated for his talents from the start?
Yeah. What if he had been nurtured?
Would he have achieved the same level of mastery?
That's a great question. It's like the rejection, the exile fueled his creativity.
Yeah.
It forced him to rely on his own ingenuity, to develop his skills to create a world for himself apart from the judgment
Right.
and expectations of Olympus.
Maybe that's part of the message of his story,
I think-
that sometimes our greatest strengths
Yeah.
are forged in the fires of adversity,
Yes.
that the challenges that we face can shape us, mold us,
Absolutely.
and ultimately make us who we are.
And it reminds us that beauty and worth aren't defined by external appearances or societal expectations, but by the strength of our character, the depth of our talents, the impact that we make on the world.
Speaking of impact, we can't forget about his lasting legacy.
Oh, no.
His influence can be seen not just in the myths themselves,
Yes.
but in the way he's been portrayed in art and literature
Oh, absolutely.
throughout history.
Throughout history, from ancient Greek sculptures to Renaissance paintings,
Yeah.
he's been a source of inspiration for artists for centuries.
It's fascinating to see how different artists have interpreted his image.
It is.
Sometimes he's depicted as this powerful, muscular blacksmith wielding his hammer
Yeah.
with divine strength.
Yeah, like that famous sculpture of him from the east pediment of the Parthenon.
Right.
Yeah, he's seated,
Yeah.
but you still get this sense of power and authority.
Yeah. And then you have other depictions where he's portrayed as more gentle, even whimsical,
Right.
often surrounded by his creations.
Yeah, like those golden handmaids.
Right. It's like each artist sees something different in him,
Yes.
finds a different facet of his personality to emphasize.
And that really speaks to the richness of his character.
Yeah.
He's not easily categorized, not easily pigeonholed.
He's both powerful and vulnerable,
Yes.
creative and destructive, and outcast and revered god.
And that complexity is what makes him so enduring.
Right.
So relatable.
Even today.
Even today.
Yeah.
Yeah, he embodies the contradictions that we all face.
Yeah.
The struggles and the triumphs that make us human.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into the world of Hephaestus,
Yeah.
I'm left with this feeling of awe and inspiration.
Yeah.
He's this figure who defied limitations,
He did.
who turned his perceived weaknesses into strengths,
Yes.
and who left an undeniable mark on the world through his creations.
He's a reminder that true power doesn't come from physical perfection or social acceptance,
Right.
but from embracing our own unique talents, our passions, our own inner fire.
He encourages us to create, to innovate, to challenge the status quo,
Yes.
to never give up on our dreams,
Absolutely.
no matter the obstacles that we face.
And he shows us that even in the face of rejection and adversity,
Yeah.
we can forge our own path, create something beautiful and meaningful, and leave a lasting legacy on the world.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Hephaestus. We hope you've gained a new appreciation for this complex and fascinating god, and that his story inspires you to embrace your own unique potential and to create something extraordinary.